Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the Flight Sim world. This is Viper Strike 95, and today we're back with our 50 states and 50 streams, everyone. We're back with another one, part 17 of our series. And today we'll be covering the Buckeye State today. We're actually in Ohio today. We're going to be covering Ohio, one of the premier states here in the Midwest. Here, a state with a rich history, and more importantly, with incredible amounts of history, des- um, iconic destinations, and much, much more. So I hope you're all having a great week. I mean, this is the weekend's finally come, and we get to finally celebrate a pretty happy weekend. So we're actually here in beautiful Cincinnati. We're in Lincoln Airport, just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, and we're gonna have a pretty nice GA flight here today. This historic airport is pretty cool. This is to Cincinnati what Bowman Field is to Louisville, their historic airport. So, before we get started, I do want to say hello to all the lurkers and stuff in chat. Hello, hello, my dudes. Have you guys here always. So, of course, we're here in Cincinnati. So, our flight plan for today is going to be a pretty simple one. We're going to be going from Cincinnati to Lucan. We're going to fly into downtown Cincinnati, Ohio. We'll fly over downtown for a bit, circle around the area, get to fly over some of the stadiums and stuff. Then from there, we'll head up north past the University of Cincinnati, and we'll head up to Dayton. We'll briefly fly over to Kings Island Amusement Park. I put that as POI. Or heading up north to Dayton, Ohio, home of the United States Air Force Museum. We'll go through Dayton and make our first stop here at Springfield Beckley Municipal Airport, here just outside of Dayton. Then for our second stop, we'll fly into the capital of Ohio, Columbus, the largest city and capital of Columbus. Check out downtown. We'll fly over the state capitol, which is here. Once we head here, we're going to go up and go visit the Ohio State University. We're going to visit the Ohio State University, the Buckeyes. And then from there, we'll head our way up north, and we'll make our next stop here at Mansfield Regional. We'll visit Mansfield and land here. And then from there, we'll head east. We'll visit Canton, Ohio. We'll check out the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where pro football got its start. Then we're going to go into Akron. We're going to go to nearby Akron, of course. Check out the Goodyear headquarters and where they built and that is where you find the Olymps, downtown Akron. Finally, of course, we'll pass through. We will briefly fly over Cuyahoga Valley National Park. We'll cover that in another series. And we'll make our way up all the way to Cleveland, Ohio, and we'll make our final stop at Burke Lakefront Airport. So yeah, it's actually similar to a flight plan we did back in 2021 for the baseball series. Only this time around, it's similar, but we're starting here in Lincoln. So the point we're taking today is the Cub Crafters NX Cub. Now, the difference between this and the normal Cub Crafters is it's actually faster than the normal one. But it's also got a nose wheel, which is also why the N in NX Cub. It's a nose wheel version. So this makes it significantly easier to taxi, and surprisingly gives just as good takeoff performance as the normal X Cub. So pretty cool stuff here. And the good thing is, like all X Cubs, starting the NX Cub is going to be really easy. This should be pretty easy to start. So So the airport we're here today is Cincinnati Lincoln Airport. This is a Cincinnati what Bowman is for Louisville. This airport has been around since 1925. It just turned 100 this year. This airport is located 3 miles east of downtown Cincinnati and serves private aircraft, including fleets of local corporations. And it serves even a few commercial flights. It's the second largest airport serving Cincinnati after the much larger Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport. That's actually in Covington, Kentucky. This airport is a headquarters and hub for the Cincinnati-based charter airline Ultimate Air Shuttle, serving 5 destinations in the U.S. Also home to small charter airline Flamingo Air and its aviation school. This airport was actually once Cincinnati's main airport until 1947. And the first related activities in this area were by John Dixon Davis in 1921, but this airport eventually opened. One interesting was the Embry-Riddle Company was formed here in 1925, and then later moved to Florida, and that later became the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, one of the largest accredited university system in aviation. Also, the Metal Aircraft Corporation was here too, of its Flamingo aircraft, and Aeronautica was even formed in Cincinnati here. And Aeronautica produced several of its aircraft, including the C-2 and C-3 aircrafts were built here in Cincinnati. And they later produced many planes, including the Model 50 Chief and Super Chief models, famous L-3 that was used a lot during World War II, and its most popular and successful plane, the Aeronautica 7 Champion, were all produced here around the Cincinnati area. Or they were the ones founded here too. However, Lincoln Airport was eventually replaced by the larger airport in Covington due to the flooding of the Ohio River. However, there have been many notable visitors visiting here of this airport in its history. Including Neil Armstrong visiting here as a professor for the University of Cincinnati. Charles Lindbergh landed here in 1927, and most famously in 1964 when the Beatles landed here for their concert. A large crowd of fans actually came to them. Even several presidents have landed here too. So it's a pretty notable little airport. Pretty cool little. Hey, Typhon, good to see you. No worries. Yeah, we do have a dev stream today. And take off. So we're going to go ahead and take off here. Thankfully, the NX Cup is an easy plane to get up and going. Thankfully, this is an easy plane to get up and going. So our first destination here, our first waypoint will be Cincinnati, Ohio. This city is really, I've been to Cincinnati many times. This is located in Hamilton County, Ohio, settled by Europeans in 1788. It's located in the northern confluence of the Licking and Ohio rivers, and it's Ohio's third most populous city with 309,000 people, only rivaled by Columbus and Cleveland. It's the cultural and economic hub of its own metro area, which is actually the most populous in the state, with 2.27 million people. Throughout the 19th century, it was among the top 10 largest cities in the United States population, mainly as a river town for cargo shipping by steamboats, as it was located in the crossroads between the north and southern U.S. It also had a lot of German-speaking immigrants and became an industrialized economy for manufacturing. In fact, during the late 1800s, it was known as the Paris of America due to all of its architectural projects that was built here during this time. And it has the 20th largest economy in the United States, home to several Fortune 500 companies. It's also got 3 major sports teams: the Reds of MLB, Bengals of the NFL, and FC Cincinnati. Pretty cool city. Well, let's go ahead and fly over. This is Cincinnati, Ohio, guys. I've been to it many times. So, you have the baseball field. This is Great American Ballpark, home of the Cincinnati Reds. The and of course, a lot of people don't know this, but Cincinnati has a rich baseball history dating back to 1867. In fact, professional baseball got its start here in Cincy as the Red Stockings. Eventually, they became the Reds in the 1880s, and baseball's played here in Cincinnati ever since. In addition to the Reds, you also have the Cincinnati Bengals. They play right next door at Paul Brown Stadium. It's now Paycor Stadium, but home to the Bengals. Cincinnati's other team, they can't seem to win anything, sadly. They come close, but we can't. They're quite a successful franchise. There's a couple of the iconic buildings here in the city, of course. The bridge right here is the most iconic piece of structure here in the city, the Roebling Bridge. It was actually at one point the world's longest suspension bridge, over 1,000 feet. It was designed by the same guy who did the Brooklyn Bridge 30 years later. Cincinnati is a cool city and definitely has a really cool history. Of course, the other thing we'll be flying over is going to be University of Cincinnati, one of the largest universities in the country by enrollment. Is Cincinnati University of Cincinnati, known as the Bearcats. Here's, guys, University of Cincinnati. That is Nippert Stadium, one of the oldest stadiums in college football is Nippert Stadium, home of the Bearcats football program. Produced several notable players, but most notably Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce. The Kelce brothers played in Cincinnati. They played their college careers here, as well as Desmond Ridder and a couple others. Another well-known thing about the stadium is that it once hosted FC Cincinnati football matches for FC Cincinnati. Before they moved to the Barclay Stadium, TPL Stadium. Beautiful facility here. That's where we're going here today. So we're going to be covering Ohio's history for a bit. So Ohio, the U.S. state of Ohio, located here in the Midwest. It's surrounded by Lake Erie to the north, Pennsylvania to the east, West Virginia to the southeast, Kentucky to the southwest, Indiana to the west, and Michigan to the northwest. Of the 50 U.S. states, it is the 34th largest in the country by area, However, it's the nation's 7th most populous state with 11.9 million people. It's the 10th most densely populated state in the country. Its capital most populous city is Columbus. The other two areas being Cleveland and Cincinnati, alongside with Dayton, and Toledo. Of course, it's named the Buckeye State, and it's pretty obvious why it's named the Buckeye State, considering the Buckeye trees native here in Ohio. And it derives its name from the Ohio River, which in turn refers to the Seneca word meaning good river. Ohio became the 17th state in March 1st, 1803, and the first under the Northwest Ordinance, and was the first post-colonial free state admitted to the Union. It remains the 7th largest economy in the United States as a per U.S. state in 2019. And in fact, Ohio State has 7 presidents come from Ohio, which is among the most of any U.S. state. So its nickname is the Mother of Presidents. It's also the birthplace of aviation. So pretty cool stuff. The history of Ohio, when you look at it, goes back to its indigenous history, as people inhabited the Ohio area as early as 13,000 BC. But after the nomads disappeared by 1000 BC, it's replaced by the sedentary Adena culture, and they established semi-permanent village because they domesticated plants with hunting and gathering, and eventually moved to more complex villages as well. Then they disappeared and evolved into the Hopewell people, which are mound builders, and some of their work can even be found in Marietta, Newark, and Circleville, Ohio. They're also a prolific hunting society as well, spanning about a third of the continent. And then they disappeared from the Ohio Valley in 600 AD, replacing by the Mississippian culture. Of course, Indians and very much the Ohio Valley was greatly affected by the tactics of the Iroquois. And the Iroquois claimed much of the Ohio country's hunting and beaver trapping. Some of the indigenous nations that historically inhabited include the Iroquoian, Algonquin, and the Siouan people. It was also the site of several Indian massacres, including the Yellow Creek Massacre and the Canaan-Putin Massacre. After the War of 1812, they suffered several losses, including Tippecanoe. Most of the tribes have left Ohio. And by 1842, all remaining natives were forced out of the state. Indeed, pretty much a lot of the Native American history here in the region. Of course, afterwards, we have to talk about the colonial history. Dating back to the 18th century, the French set up a system of trading posts to control fur trade. Then, of course, the British and French then fought the French and Indian War with various native tribes. And as a result of the Treaty of Paris, French ceded control of Ohio and the remainder of the Old Northwest to Great Britain in 1763. Before the Revolution, Britain faintly exercised sovereignty over Ohio country, and just beyond it was the Miami capital, center of British trade. In the Royal Proclamation in 1763, British lands west of Appalachian were forbidden to settlement by colonialists. Of course, all that changed with the American Revolution, and increased a lot of tension, and eventually the revolutionaries would start to move into the Ohio Territory. Western theory of the American Revolution did have a decisive victor, but it never needed to since the Americans won everywhere else. And thus, in 1783, all claims of Ohio County were ceded to the United States after victory of the American Revolutionary War. The U.S. created the Northwest Territory in 1787. Slavery was not permitted here, and settlement began founding with Marietta, which was formed by a lot of American Revolutionary War veterans. And then afterwards, they continued to survey more of the Ohio Territory. It was also, a lot of the Northwest Territory also included those areas of Illinois County in the Indiana Territory, which we'll be covering pretty soon. Also, in addition, they also had the Lower Peninsula of Michigan, including the Ohio County as well, in the eastern tip of Upper Michigan. Under the Northwest, and of course in 1803, Ohio became a U.S. state. as Ohio became the 17th state in the Union. Although no formal resolution was required, Ohio began celebrating its sequential. So it became that as well. And there had 3 capital cities in Ohio during that time. Eventually, Columbus became a thing near to be the center. Of course, Native Americans migrated west to invade, others remained in the states, and there were conflicts between the native tribes and the United States, which occurred with the War of 1812. And Ohio played a key role in that state, as it was the front line of the Western theater and the scene of several notable battles, both on land and Lake Erie, including the Battle of Lake Erie taking place, where the British surrendered to Oliver Hazard Perry. Then, of course, afterwards, with the Indian Removal Act, and a lot of native tribes were removed out of the state of Ohio. Of course, one other event, I did want to actually point this out, was the fact that Ohio was the scene of the Toledo War, which was fought with Michigan. Funnily enough, the states fought each other, actually. It was actually bloodless boundary war with the Toledo Strip, which was valuable, which at the time was a very valuable piece of land. Of course, Congress thankfully intervened, and Michigan was admitted to states to end the conflict. Ohio gained Toledo, and Michigan was given the Washington Territory of the Upper Peninsula, which, if you ask many Michiganders, that was probably well worth the territorial loss. So, that was definitely well worth it for a lot of Michigan. That's for sure. So over here, guys, is the amusement park Kings Island. Here. This is one of the 2 proud theme parks in the States. The other one is in Sandusky, Ohio, in northern Ohio, home to Cedar Point. Now, of course, this isn't in the sim, but their tallest and fastest coaster was Orion, which goes over 200 feet. Goes over 300 feet with a 300-foot drop, which is massive. Ohio's central position and population gave it a huge place in the American Civil War, as the Ohio River Valley was crucial for logistics and troop movements. So it made it very popular and successful, and Ohio also had a lot of people who fought in the Civil War. Almost 35,000 Ohioans died in the U.S. Civil War, and 30,000 more were wounded. In fact, the Union's top 3 generals were all from Ohio. Ulysses S. Grant, William Tecumseh Sherman, and Philip Sheridan were all from Ohio. During the 19th century, industry rapidly was to complement the agricultural economy, and Ohio became one of the big industrial states in the country, with different corporations and more making their home in the state. Of course, oil industry was also developed, and coal as well, building a lot of many companies, including Carnegie Steel was one of the big ones back in the day. And of course, the state flag was adopted in 1902, and Dayton natives, Orwell and Wilbur Wright, became the guys who founded aviation. And finally, Ken's the home of the National Football League, founded in 1920, which included 5 Ohio cities, but they no longer exist. And the first official American NFL game happened in 1920, and it's become the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The 1930s, the Great Depression did strike the state quite hard. More than 40% of factory workers were unemployed in the state. Of course, during World War II, an interesting fact in Ohio also happened, where Cleveland residents Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created Superman. And Superman beating the Nazis. And of course, Ohio played a big role in the World War II, as over 839,000 Ohioans served in World War II, which 23,000 died or missing in action. Of course, the 1960s, you have 2 major astronauts, John Glenn and Neil Armstrong, became major parts of the space race. Of course, you have the infamous Kent State shootings in 1970, protest the Vietnam War. And Ohio was a major part of developing ties with the People's Republic of China under Ohio Governor Jim Rhodes. Of course, nowadays, Ohio's economy has went through many changes through the 21st century, mainly replacing manufacturing with new industries like solar energy, electric vehicles, and more, transforming Ohio into a more modern state. with more modern. So, and Ohio's still going pretty good. I know, recovering quite fine. So, our next waypoint is going to come out soon, and that would be the city of Dayton. Really. We'll be coming to Dayton pretty soon. So I hope you guys like this content. I stream here 3 days a week. So we have our 50 Shades of History here today. Cool. But yes, there's only one state that has more presidents than Ohio, and that being Virginia with 8. The 7 U.S. presidents from Ohio start with Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, James A. Garfield, Benjamin Harrison, William McKinley, William Halford Taft, and the most recent president, Warren G. Harding, are from Ohio. So, we're going to be visiting Dayton soon. So this is Dayton, Ohio. Now, if you guys aren't aware about Dayton, of course, Dayton, Ohio is actually one of Ohio's 6th most populous city with 137,000 people. And it anchors the state's 4th largest metropolitan area, the Dayton metro area, with 814,000 residents. It was founded in 1796 along the Great Miami River and named after Jonathan Dayton, one of America's founding fathers who had significant land in this area. And it grew in the 19th century as a canal town with many patents and inventors, most notably the Wright brothers who invented the airplane. It was also later developed as an industrial economy and was home to the Dayton Project, a branch of the Manhattan Project to develop polonium triggers in the early atomic bombs. Of course, heavy manufacturing had decreased in the 20th century and transformed into a service-based economy. However, despite this though, Dayton is still pretty much a major research development hub. Home to Wright-Patt Air Base, which is a significant contributor to research and development in the different air engineering field. Healthcare also accounts for much of the economy, and significant institutes include the Air Force Institute of Technology, Carillion Historic Park, the University of Dayton, and the Museum of the United States Air Force, which is one of the top aviation museums in the world. Dayton's got a long history. Also got its own ballet company, which is one of the oldest in the country. It's also home to its own air show, one of the largest in the country. You can also find the Dayton Aviation Heritage Natural Historical Park, which commemorates the lives of Dayton natives Orville and Wilbur Wright, but also Paul Laurence Dubar, who was actually a pretty well-known figure in Dayton history. But other inventions, surprisingly, also came from Dayton, including the cash register patents for the cash register from John Henry Patterson. Charles F. Kettering did the first electric cash register, see nowadays all over the world. His company also developed the U.S. Navy bomb, a code-breaking machine that broke the Enigma cipher during World War II. In fact, Dayton had more patents per capita than any other U.S. city in the 1890. The airplane was also there, covering many of his inventions. It was also home to James Brady's incorruptible cashier, the first mechanical cash register, and Arthur F. Morgan's hydraulic jump, a flood prevention mechanism as well. And of course, Paul Laurence Dubar penned his most famous works here in Dayton as well. He did a lot of patents. Kettering did. There are a ton of patents. A lot of refrigeration, gas control, pumps, variable pitch propeller control, humidity control, temperature sensitive means, magnetic clutch, ignition devices, automatically controlled transmission, electric railway gates, combustion engine, yeah, a lot of stuff. And he absolutely had a massive history, very notable figure from. Like I said, Dayton has a rich history, and it's a place of innovation. I know a lot of people think it's just airplanes, and I don't blame you guys for thinking that way, but Dayton's home to so much more. Other interesting facts about Dayton, for one, Dayton's university teams are known as the Flyers for obvious reasons. It's the city's aviation heritage. It's very proud of its aviation heritage. So we're going to be flying over Dayton, Ohio. It's downtown Dayton. They also have a Packard Museum, too. Wow. I'm going to go ahead. Downtown Dayton. Bit of a close-up view. There's the baseball field for the Dayton Dragons. Successful minor league team of the Reds. We're going to head over to the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force. Up here, too. This here is the Air Force Museum. They got tons of stuff in that museum we're checking out. They got it's the oldest, largest military aviation museum in the world. Dating back to 1923, with over 360 aircraft and missiles on display. It's the central component of the National Aviation Heritage Area. And it draws about 1 million visitors a year, making it one of the most visited tourist attractions in the state. And they did it at McCook Airfield. And it's home to so many interesting collections. And they got many different aircraft, from the Memphis Belle to presidential aircraft for Presidents FDR, Truman, and Eisenhower, to pioneers of flight, uniforms and clothing, and other unique pieces of artifacts here in the United States military. Good screenshot here. Wright Pat Air Base. So now we're going to continue on this direction to make it to our next stop. Our first stop of the day, Springfield Beckley Airport, will be our first stop of the day. This municipal airport is located in Green Township, Clark County, Ohio. It's owned by Springfield, 5 miles to the north, and it's named after the Beckley family, which was associated with the Wright brothers and witnessed and photographed some of their first flights. Also home to 3 units of the Ohio Air National Guard, and it hosts both fly-ins and air shows with vintage planes. It has even hosted the commemorative air flight. It originally had scheduled airline flights back in the 40s, 50s, but not anymore. It was also well known for a lot of testing of transportation of the UAS, Unmanned Air Service. So, that's some pretty cool stuff here, Springfield, Ohio. Of course, here's the main Wright Pat Air Base. To our left is the main Wright Pat Air Base. Okay, Kilo Foxtrot Foxtrot Oscar. The main Wright Pat Air Base. We're going to make our first stop pretty soon. No worries, Typhon. We're going to go ahead and prepare for our first lane of the day here. So I know FS Weekend's happening right now. It is FS Weekend, and Murph's not here. He's gone. We'll land here. We'll take a quick break here at beautiful Springfield, and then we'll take a break and we'll prepare for the next leg over to Columbus and Mansfield. Get ready. Here it is. Our first stop is right up here. Stop here. Here we are, guys. Our first stop of the day. Stop here briefly for just a few minutes. Get some bit of rest as we prepare for we'll get ready for our next flight pretty soon. We're going to go ahead and prepare for the next leg of the trip here in beautiful Ohio. Let's head our way over to Columbus. Up and we're going to climb up to 2,000 feet. So we're going to be talking more about Ohio. Let me briefly get this. Ohio's geography. There. Geographically speaking, Ohio's middle location proved to be an asset for economic growth and expansion because it links the Northeast to the Midwest. And much cargo and business traffic goes through its borders with its highways. It's the nation's 10th largest highway network and within one day drive to 50% of North America's population and 70% of its manufacturing capacity. Ohio has a couple geographic regions here in Ohio, and much of it features glacier-tilled plains, with the exception of a flat area in the northwest. But there's multiple regions. You have the Huron Lake Erie Plains to the northern regions, central lowland to much of the south to the western areas, the bluegrass section, much of it borders Kentucky, the Appalachian Plateau is in the southeast. The central northeast is the glaciated Allegheny Plateaus. And all that makes up Ohio's geographic regions. And in fact, 1/3 of its entire landmass is in the Appalachian region as a result. And several rivers flow through here, include the Cuyahoga River, Great Miami River, and more flow through the state of Ohio. All that forms a unique boundary for Ohio's geography. It's a pretty unique region within the state's boundaries. In terms of climates, Ohio is mainly humid continental climates throughout most of the state, except in the extreme center counties of the Bluegrass, which is located in humid subtropical and upland south regions of the United States. However, more weather gets to be humid continental in the northern regions, either hot or warm summer. The worst weather disaster in Ohio history was the flood around the Great Dayton Flood, which flooded the entire Miami River, including downtown Dayton, flooded. Well, of course, there's also a bit of as a result. There have also been a few earthquakes here in Ohio, surprisingly, the most recent one being in Youngstown in 2011, and one in 2019. So, definitely a few interesting things about its geography, but nothing too special with its geographic length. Nothing too crazy. We're going to continue on this way for just a little bit. Look outside here. Nice and flat here in Ohio. Probably here. The city we're going to be visiting next is Ohio's capital, which will be coming up soon, Columbus. Columbus is Ohio's state capital and most populous city with 905,000 people, making it the U.S.'s 14th most populous city and the second most populous city in the Midwest after Chicago, the third most behind Phoenix and Austin. The metro area is 2.1 million, the largest metro area entirely in state. It was originated as numerous American settlements on the banks of the Scioto River. Oh, and hey, we have a follow from Bingo's owner. Good to see. Thank you so much for the follow. So Columbus, Ohio, is mainly in as numerous American settlements laid in 1797. The city was founded in 1812 at the confluence of the Scioto and Olentangy rivers and became the state capital. It was named after the Italian explorer Christopher Columbus, and it assumed the function of state capital ever since 1816. It also went through beginning in the 50s. It experienced more growth, and it continues to grow even more so even into the 21st century. Especially diverse downtown. The city has a diverse economy without reliance on any one sector, and it's home to all sorts of institutions like the Battelle Memorial Institute, the world's largest private research and development foundation, Chemical Abstract Service, and of course one of the largest universities in the country, the Ohio State University, as well. It's also home to 6 Fortune 500 companies, most notably American Electric Power, Bath and Body Works, Nationwide, all founded here in Columbus. All founded here in the States. Some more information about Columbus and something you might want to know is there are over 170 buildings registered in the National Historic Places, and it has its own register of historic places too. Most notably, its Art Deco Levick Towers is the most iconic landmark in the city. But there's also got the Capitol Square and Driving Park Heritage District, which was the original home of Eddie Rickenbacker, the World War II, World War I fighter pilot, and the most decorated and successful U.S. flying ace of World War I. Columbus also has its own sports team, too. In fact, they got 2 professional teams, 2 major league teams, the Blue Jackets of the NHL, and the MLS's Columbus Crew. However, if you ask most people, the sports that dominated the state the most is, without question, college sports. In particularly Ohio State University, mainly its collegiate football program is the biggest deal in the state. Ohio State's always been great with its athletic programs, but its football is where it's the most dominant. The Buckeyes have been one of the premier collegiate programs in the country. And they just won the most recent national championship this past year, making them now have 9 claimed national championships. And they played the Big Ten. They played in one of the largest stadiums in the country, if not the world, in Ohio Stadium, known as the Horseshoe. It's the most valuable college football program at around $2.5 billion US. And that program has had many famous and legendary players, including many Pro Football Hall of Famers played here, including Lou Groza, Dante Lavelli, Dick LeBeau, Chris Carter, Orlando Pace, and most recently Randy Gradishar. All became legendary Hall of Famers who've been involved in the Ohio State program. They've also had some legendary coaches too. The most notable include the legendary Woody Hayes, Paul Brown, Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, and Ryan Day having won national championships. And of course, you can't talk about Ohio State without its rivalry with Michigan, dating back to 1897, known simply as the Game. It's one of the biggest and most prestigious college football matchups in all of college sport, if not one of the greatest rivalries in American sport. Huge deal. Of course, Columbus, its NHL team are known as the Blue Jackets. They were actually they actually came to the NHL in 2000, but its original Major League team was actually the Columbus Crew. And they played in 1996. They were one of the original Columbus Major League team to enter the city. They became a pretty successful soccer club here in the country. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. They also have lots of different parks and attractions like the Arena District, several parks, and of course the Ohio State Fair, one of the largest in the country. Yes, lots. We're going to get into downtown Ohio. We're going to fly over the Capitol for a bit. Then we'll briefly fly over the Ohio State University, check out Ohio State. So lots of pretty cool information. Columbus has home to several notable people. Many notable people born here in the state. Most notably, born and raised, Eddie Rickenbacker is one of the most famous people here. Hey, good to see you, Bingo. Oh, thank you, Bingo's owner. Thank you for saying that. I've been doing this ever since I first streamed back in 2021. I've been streaming for a few years now. I've done all of this since 2021. My first series was literally a baseball series. I did that, and I did entire baseball information with baseball history. That was my very first ever sort of stream anything. And it's something that's carried on with me ever since I wanted to carve out my own niche. I wanted to do more historical information. I wanted to do more of all that sort of stuff. And I've done multiple series since then. I did historical information with the Berlin-Beijing flight in 2022, and in 2023 was my first ever around the world trip. Continuous round trip with the Brentley DC-3, and then in 2024 and 2025, I have another couple of series planned, flying over historical locations. But yes, I've been doing this sort of stuff for a couple of years now. It's something I enjoy. I love researching. I love learning more about the world. So I feel like this would be perfect. This here is Columbus, the capital of Ohio, one of the largest, Ohio's most populous city, and one of the largest state capitals in the country. We're going to go ahead and slow her. We're going to go ahead and try autopilot for just a little bit and slow down. We can fly over the capital. Columbus is definitely a cool city, especially if you love college sports. College sports powerhouse. Here it is, guys, Columbus. Of course, they also have several minor league teams in the state, most notably the Columbus Clippers of minor league baseball. I also like taking photographs for the Discord too. I like taking these photos for the Discord as well. Because I love taking photos, put them on my Discord and stuff. That way I can share you guys my experiences and all that with you. But I really do appreciate the kind words. So the capital is located the northwest here. The building we just passed was Nationwide Arena, home of the Blue Jackets, 2000. To our right is the Ohio State Capitol. This is the state capitol building of Ohio, actually. That building over here is the Ohio State House. Yes, it looks like this. It is Ohio's State House. There's the baseball field, home of the Clippers, and then next to it, on that empty playing field, is actually the Columbus Crew's new stadium. And of course, we'll be visiting the Ohio State University. To our right is John Glenn Airport. That is Ohio. That's the main airport for the city of Columbus. Pretty little airport. That's a nice bit of history up here. Yeah, Ohio Stadium, the crown jewel of Ohio State football. You know, actually, in some seasons, the Columbus Crew even played soccer in that stadium for a couple of seasons. Its record attendance occurred in 2016 when 110,000 people visited the stadium against Michigan. Like, can you believe it? 110,000 people got to visit the stadium. Here's the campus of Ohio State, and of course, there's the Mighty Horseshoe. There's the Mighty Horseshoe, home of the Ohio State University. So we're going to turn east, and we're going to head our way over to Mansfield, Ohio. there, go east to visit Mansfield, Ohio. Head up there. If you guys have never been through Ohio, I've been through Ohio a couple times in real life. The deepest in Ohio I've visited is Dayton, of course. When I visited Dayton for the Air Force Museum, you guys all probably know how great of a museum that is. That's an amazing aviation. And of course, I visited Cincinnati plenty of times. I've been there for a concert, and I've been a couple times visiting the Cincinnati Reds. So I know Cincinnati is a great community. I'm going to go ahead and talk about another part of Ohio that needs to be covered, and that is Ohio's economy. Yes, Ohio economically is one of the most prosperous states in the country economically. After all, Ohio is ranked 7th among all U.S. States in GDP, $626 billion US. It is among the highest of all U.S. states. The largest sectors are the manufacturing and agricultural and financial sectors, composed of 18% of its GDP and the largest. It has the third largest manufacturing workforce in the country behind California and Texas, and it has the largest bioscience sector in the Midwest, as well as a leader in the green economy. It also produces a lot of plastics, rubber, fabricated metals, electrical equipment, and appliances of all U.S. states. And its largest sector is trade and transportation, which employs over 1 million Ohioans, or 19% of the entire state's workforce. Ohio manufacturing sector is the third largest of all 50 U.S. states, with many companies including Procter & Gamble, Goodyear, AK Steel, Abercrombie and Finch, and Wendy's are all featured here in the state. Pretty interesting stuff about Ohio's economy. But Ohio also has plenty of other sectors in its economy. But it goes even further than this. For example, Ohio State has a really rich aerospace and aviation history, especially around the Dayton area, including GE Aviation, headquartered in Evendale, Ohio. Many weapons systems were manufactured in Lima, Ohio. And some companies in Ohio include GE Aviation, Timken, Goodrich, GE Honda Aero Engines, CFM International, and Aircraft Braking Systems. They're all notable defense companies here in Ohio. Bioscience is a big deal, and they're one of the biggest bioscience industries of all the country. Healthcare is a big deal, with many systems in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus, and Dayton as well. Have a lot of healthcare industry. Culture is actually a pretty strong industry in the state. In fact, Ohio, believe it or not, ranks first in the production of Swiss cheese, third in egg production, sixth in soybeans, and hogs, and ninth in corn for grain. As a result, Ohio's got a lot of agriculture history. And Ohio's also the third largest producer of tomatoes in the country. So, yes, turns out Ohio's got a rich agriculture history too, and tons of manufacturing from automobiles, iron steel producing, rubber and plastics, mainly in Toledo, Akron. But, yes, turns out Ohio has a rich industry. There's tons of them, especially food processing as well. What I'm trying to get at is that Ohio's economy is among the most diverse all U.S. states, not just relying on one sector, but on multiple sectors of the country. And of course, tourism is also a bigger deal in this state due to the fact that it's home to two of the largest amusement parks in North America: Cedar Point in Sandusky and Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. Got a lot of other attractions: Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Penn's Pro Football Hall of Fame, Bass Islands near Sandusky, which attracts a lot of tourism, the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, the Wild Safari Park in Cumberland, Ohio, Columbus Zoo Aquarium in Columbus, and much, much more. And a lot of films have also been filmed here in Ohio, too. Most notably, some of the most notable films that filmed here include some bits of the Avengers, Spider-Man 3, The Silence of the Lambs, Men in Black, Shawshank Redemption, Soloist, Tango and Cash, and Major League were all filmed in Ohio. So yes, Ohio definitely is economically a powerhouse among U.S. states. And it makes a lot of sense, too, if you think hard about it. Moving into this board, definitely one of the really cool things about Ohio. Definitely lots of really cool stuff here. Ohio's also got other Division I programs, not just Ohio State and Cincinnati. Those are the two most prominent in the states. They also got a lot of other smaller colleges, including Kent State University, Bowling Green State, Toledo, Akron are some of the other major Division I FBS programs. But Ohio's got a rich history with college sports. So to the next thing about Ohio would be its art. One of the bigger things about Ohio is it has a rich art history, as it's home to 3 different art institutions, including the Columbus Museum of Art, Cleveland Museum of Art, and many others are found here in the state. The one in Cincinnati has over 100,000 works spanning 6,000 years of history, being some of the most comprehensive collections in the Midwest, including those of Sam Boidello, Jorge Ingles, Sandro Bosselli, and more. Then you have the Cleveland Museum of Art, which is internationally renowned for its Asian and Egyptian arts and more than 61,000 arts from around the world, making it the 4th wealthiest art museum in the country. And there, in the one in Columbus, has over lots of 19th and 20th century American and European art, including those of Picasso, one Greece, and many others. It's pretty cool. It has a rich art history too. But one of the more surprising things to cover here in Ohio has got to be its cuisine. And Ohio has a really unique cuisine history compared to some of the other U.S. states. For one, of course, Ohio's known for its Buckeye candies. Don't confuse them it has a resemblance to the nuts that goes on the state tree, but they're really just peanut butter cups coated in chocolate. Klondike bar was also invented in Ohio in 1920. The iconic Klondike bar, frozen dairy dessert and chocolate cover coating, as well as Dum Dum lollipops in Bellevue, Ohio, and of course the state's most famous cuisine invention, Cincinnati-style chili, which is actually Greek-inspired compared to other chili. It's actually Greek-inspired meat sauce and is used a lot for toppings of spaghetti or hot dog. And additionally, red beans, chopped onions, and shredded cheese are as extra toppings as well. German immigrants in Cincy also invented goetta, breakfast sausage made of meat scraps, spices, and oats. Poland's signature sandwich is the Polish boy, which is kielbasa placed with covered layer of French fries, barbecue sauce, and coleslaw, served on a bun. Columbus is known as the Johnny Mazzotti casserole dish with noodles, ground beef, tomatoes, and cheese. And it's also hosted many fast food companies, including the first Arby's, Buffalo Wild Wings, Stewart's, and Wendy's. That covers a bit about Ohio's cuisine. A bit, and to cover that part of Ohio moving forward. There's still more to cover, but we'll talk about it in the next leg. Cover more. We're going to move up to more up head of the state. We're about to head Mansfield, Ohio here, which would be where our second stop of the day would be taking place, is at Mansfield, Ohio. So Mansfield is located in Richland County, Ohio, population 7,000 people, and it's approximately 65 miles from Cleveland and Columbus on Interstate I-71. The city was founded in 1808 on the ford of the Mohawken River. Surrounded by fertile farmlands, it became a manufacturing center due to its location with railroad lines. After the decline of heavy manufacturing, it's diversified into service economy with retailing, education, and many healthcare sectors. However, Mansfield is most well known back in the glory days of the manufacturing era. Brass objects, doors, linseed oil, paper boxes, and others were manufactured here in the city. The largest industry at the time was actually a cigar maker during this time. One of the big parts of Mansfield, Ohio, is it's also been featured in several Hollywood movies, including Shawshank Redemption, Air Force One, and Tango Cash were filmed in Mansfield, Ohio. And of course, one of the most significant structures in museums is the Ohio State Reformatory, as reforming many prisoners, and it was a major film location for many films was at the Reformatory prison yard. Of course, it also has a carousel district, where it was home to the first indoor wooden carousel built in the United States since the 1930s. So as a result, Mansfield is known as the field, the heart of Ohio. Stuff. And finally, of course, we have Mansfield Regional Airport, the local airport here in Mansfield, Ohio. This joint use facility is an hour away both Columbus and Cleveland. It was, is known as Lamb because it's named after Frank P. Lamb, a balloonist who trained his son, where it's now located. His son won the first Gordon Bennett balloon race from Paris to England. And he even worked with the Wright brothers. It was the first military passenger in an airplane. Some of the first flights were DC-3s in the 40s and 50s. Mansfield is now mainly it's home to a military presence of its own Air National Guard base and an airlift wing. And that air wing has performed service operations during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Southern Watch, Noble Eagle, Enduring Freedom, and Iraqi Freedom. Well, but it's mainly now a GA airport facility. And it also has a lot of warbird aircraft displays here too. So that is Mansfield. All right, guys. We'll be arriving here very shortly to Mansfield, Ohio. So let's go ahead and get ready for the landing here pretty soon. It won't take as long. We'll go ahead and switch tanks to the right tank. You're getting low in the tanks as well. There's Mansfield coming up. And we'll land here at runway 05. So we're just about 100 nautical miles from our final stop here in Cleveland, Ohio. Don't really have too much longer to go. So I hope you guys have really cool plans for this weekend. This weekend, it won't be much. I got some research work to do weekend, and then, of course, Sunday we have our flight in Louisiana we have to go through. So for next week, our next week's source streams, we're going to be in Stockholm Wednesday, and then Friday and Sunday are going to be to complete part 2, Indiana and Mississippi. So Indiana and Mississippi are going to be done. And we'll get ready for part 3 of the U.S. states cover. And might start finally heading west for once. There's the Ohio Reformatory, very popular film location. Stop here for just a little bit, as we're finally here in Mansfield for our second leg. Our last leg will be the longest of all the legs here today. We have one more leg left to go, and that will be to Cleveland. So we'll rest here for just a minute here for the next stream, for the next leg. So let's go ahead and prepare for leg 2. This will be our final leg of the day here in beautiful Ohio. We have one last leg to cover if you guys are here coming here. We're in our last leg of the trip here. That is to Cleveland. Let's go ahead and prepare for the flight coming here soon. And we're going to fly up to 2,000 feet. All right. So we're going to head to our first waypoint of this leg. Canton, Ohio will be next. The Pro Football Hall of Fame will be our next first stop. So let's cover up the rest of Ohio, shall we? There's a couple more slides we're going to cover for Ohio first. We're going to get to 2,000 feet. Once we make our climb, we're going to go talk about the rest of it. So now let's go talk about some bit of Ohio, some other slides. So Ohio also, in addition to its rich art history and cuisine, it also has a rich musical history. In fact, you can find both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame in Cleveland. In fact, it was actually Cleveland disc jockey Alan Freed who actually popularized the term rock and roll in the early 50s. You can also find the American Classical Music Hall of Fame Museum in Cincinnati, which plays a lot of histories of classical music in America. There are 6 Ohio musicians in the member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that being the Grohl of Nirvana and Foo Fighters, the Isley Brothers, who are originally a soul group, the Nine Inch Nails, Bobby Womack, a well-known songwriter and guitarist in the 50s, part of the family music group the Valentinos, Benjamin Orr of the Cars, and Chrissy Hynde of the Pretenders are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Other popular musicians from the state include the iconic king of cool D. Martin, Howard Joseph and Josh Judden of 21 Pilots, Frankie Yankovic, the Polka King, the McGuire Sisters, Shirley Murdoch, Marilyn Manson, Dan Auerbach and Patrick Caney of the Black Keys, Kid Cudi, William Earl Bootsy Collins, and Devo are some of the iconic musicians from the state of Ohio, making it a pretty rich history. You also have one of the best in worldwide. The Cleveland Orchestra is one of the historic Big Five orchestras in the United States and one of the best worldwide. Other cities also have their own orchestras too. But yes, Ohio has a rich music history. Sometimes people kind of get overlooked about that, but it's true. And then next is its sports. And again, Ohio is a great sports state. Think about it. It's home to 8 professional teams in 5 different major leagues in the United States. For baseball, you have the Reds and Guardians, formerly known as the Cleveland Indians, but they're now the Cleveland Guardians. For Major League Soccer, they have the Columbus Crew and the newer FC Cincinnati and MLS Soccer. NBA has the Cleveland Cavaliers, which won which won their NBA title in 2016 with the hometown hero LeBron James. And then the NFL has the Bengals and Browns, two very well-known teams in the NFL. And finally, for ice hockey, you have the Columbus Blue Jackets. The state has won 7 World Series championships, 3 MLS Cups, an NBA championship, and 9 NFL titles in the state of Ohio. Though no Ohio team has won a Super Bowl since its inception, however, and no Ohio team has made a Stanley Cup appearance. I think more likely, we might see an Ohio team win a Super Bowl before the Stanley Cup. Who knows? And Ohio also played a central role in the development of both Major League Baseball and the National Football League. After all, baseball's first professional team is Cincinnati in 1869, while the NFL was started in Canton, Ohio in 1920. And you have the Pro Football Hall of Fame there located here as well, one of the prestigious sports museums in the country. Of course, in addition to this, college sports are a big deal here with 8 FBS programs. Most notably, the 2 most notable in the state are the Ohio State Buckeyes of the Big Ten in Columbus and the Cincinnati Bearcats of the Big 12 in Cincy. Ohio State University has been one of the great college football programs of all time, producing 7 Heisman Trophy winners, 41 conference titles, and 9 undisputed national championships. Ohio State also has a really nice basketball program too. While Cincinnati's men's basketball team has won over 1,800 games, and Cincinnati football became the first Group of 5 team to qualify for the playoff. Too. Then you have the smaller conferences being in 6 of those are in the Mid-Atlantic Mid-American Conference: Akron, Bowling Green, Kent State, University of Miami of Ohio, and Oxford, Ohio Bobcats in Athens, Ohio, and Toledo. There's also smaller universities all across the the FCS, like Cleveland State, Xavier, Wright State, and Youngstown State. But yes, lots of universities here in the state of Ohio represents its culture. So Ohio has a lot of things going forward in sports now. Of course, for transportation, Ohio has some really interesting transportation. Many east-west transportation go through Ohio, and one of those pioneer routes was known as Main Market Route 3, which became part of the historic Lincoln Highway, which was the first road across America, from New York City to San Francisco. And it linked many towns together like Canton, Mansfield, Worcester, Lima, and Van Wert. And it became a big part of its development in the roads. And Ohio still has a lot of roads and interstate highways. The Ohio Turnpike, which is I-80, I-90, I-76, I-70, the Appalachian Highway. There's also lots of state bicycle routes and rail trails, including the Ohio to Erie Trail, which connects Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland to bicycle, as well as the Buckeye Trail and North Country Trail all go through Ohio. It's had several rail networks, though not nearly as big anymore, mainly for freight. Amtrak does have some distance routes through Ohio, like the Lane Shore Limited, Capital Limited, and the Cardinal, serve Ohio to many cities' destination. However, surprisingly, Columbus is the largest city in the U.S. with no passenger rail service, which was last served in 1979. And there's also several scenic railways, most notably the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad, which goes through the National Park. In the Hocking Valley Scenic Railways in Hocking Hill State Park, Ohio. And in terms of air travels, there's 4 international airports in the state: Cleveland Hopkins, John Glenn Columbus, Dayton International, and Rickenbacker. And if you wonder why Cincinnati is not included, because Cincinnati's airport is actually located in Kentucky, Hebron. So, yeah. In terms of the largest airports in the state, the largest, I believe, is Cleveland Hopkins. It is actually the busiest airport in the state, is Cleveland Hopkins. So, that covers the transportation sector of Ohio. Still several state facts to cover a little bit later. Yeah, everyone's going smoothly here today with the flying. Yeah, I might do the Lincoln Highway too. That also sounds pretty good. So finally, of course, we'll yes, Lincoln Highway does sound pretty cool. A bit of interesting history about this highway, the Lincoln Highway. It basically goes all the way. It's about 3,000 nautical miles. It's about 3,300. It's 3,400 miles, and it goes from Lincoln Park in South Carolina, which gives it the Lincoln nickname, and it goes all the way to Times Square, New York, and it passes through California, Nevada, Wyoming, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. And it's been around since 1913. It does sound pretty good, but I got a lot of other stuff planned, Bingo's owner. One of the things I'm planning on doing is I'm doing the trail sort of stuff, which is the Wednesday stuff's going to be the trail series. I'm going to cover a lot of the trails, um, which includes from scenic trails like the Appalachian Trail and Pacific Crest to historical trails, the Trail T Trail, Santa Fe Trail, Oregon Trail. I'm going to cover all of those. But yes, I think it's pretty cool to do all this sort of stuff. Hey, Big Boss Robinson, good to see you, my dude. I hope you're doing well. We're about to head our way over to... We're heading our way over to Canton, Ohio for our first waypoint of this leg is Canton. So let's talk about some historical fun facts about Ohio for a bit as we get to Canton. The glacial grooves on the north sides of Kelly Islands are the easily accessible such grooves in the world, and they are scoured into solid limestone bedrock by 18,000 years ago by the Great Ice Sheet, a part of North America. The Buckeye State received its name from its many buckeye trees, state tree of Ohio. Fun fact about this as well, the buckeye tree. Is that the buckeye trees are actually its fruit and such. And apparently buckeyes are actually quite is that the buckeyes here are actually the nuts itself actually have tannic acid or leather, and they can actually be dried and stuff too as necklaces. And as a result, the tannic acid actually makes it poisonous to both cattle and humans. Do be careful, they are not edible. East Liverpool was actually the beginning point of the U.S. Public Land Survey in 1785, and it provided for administration of the land of the Old Northwest Territory. So it was originally here, and finally, the first hot dog was actually invented in Ohio, created by Harry M. Stevens. Created the hot dog. Basically, sausage on a bun. Back in 19. And here are some many famous peoples. These are usually some of them, including Neil Armstrong himself from Wapakoneta, and of course many U.S. presidents, including William Jennings Bryan, Salem, James Abraham Garfield from Cuyahoga County, Ulysses Simpson Grant from Port Pleasant, Ohio, Warren G. Harding from Morrow County, Rutherford Hayes from Delaware, Ohio, and Benjamin Harrison from North Bend. Lots of presidents made their homes. 7 of them. But there's also a lot of people. William Burton, inventor from Cleveland. George Armstrong Custer from New Rumley. Thomas Edison himself was invented in Milan, Ohio. After Clark Gable from Cabot. John Herschel Glenn from Cambridge, and his namesake's on the airport in Columbus. Charles Martin Hall, inventor from Thompson. And Steven Spielberg, director and screenwriter from Cincinnati. However, there is one more name I would put on this list. Oh, Heapler F4 Phantom. Oh, that's an exciting one. Super Typhon. Thank you for that. But of course, if I want to add one more name from the state of Ohio, I would put LeBron James from Akron. Trust me, we'll get to Akron very shortly. Yes, lots of famous people from Ohio. Again, a state like Ohio with a rich history is not really that surprising. That's for sure. So we're going to visit Canton for a bit. So this is Canton, Ohio we're coming up to. This is 60 miles south of Cleveland, 20 miles south of Akron. Population 70,000 people, which is 8th among Ohio cities. It was founded in 1805 along the Middle West branches of the Nemischilling Creek, and it became a heavy manufacturing center due to its railroad line. However, it declined in the late 20th century, thanks to the downsizing of its manufacturing industry. Nowadays, it's been more service economy. However, Canton's notable for 2 important things. 1, home to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which opened back in 1963, and the birthplace of the National Football League in 1920, which proved to be America's most popular sport. But also, one other event that happened was in 1896 when William McKinley conducted his famed front porch campaign from his home in Canton, Ohio during the 1896 election. And you can find his National Memorial and Presidential Library here in Canton. And you can also find the First Lady's National Historic Site in honor of his wife, Ada. Pretty cool stuff here in Canton. is to our right. It doesn't have any photogrammetry, but we might fly over the Pro Football Hall of Fame building here. Of course, Canton also used to have an NFL team, the Bulldogs, that played from 1920 to 1923. It also has its own hot balloon festival, and it also has its own its own stadium here, Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, which is played for high school games in the annual Hall of Fame game played here. And one of its main people was Marilyn Manson, was one of the famous, as well as Hall of Famer Dan Dierdorf. Alan Page was from here. Thurman Munson, 7-time All-Star and even MVP. And Reuben Klamer, who invented the game of life, was from Canton, Ohio. Now, information about the Pro Football Hall of Fame that's coming up here. Opened back in 1963. And there are a total of 382 members of the Hall of Fame as of 2025. Between 4 and 9 new inductees are enshrined every year. The team with the most is the Chicago Bears, with 34 of them. 42 including players with minor portions of it, but 34 inductees. More than any other team. And there are a lot of inductees here too. But yeah, lots of different players from many different. We're gonna go ahead and get back to Park Street. So he's downtown Canton to the right. And the Football Hall of Fame should be around here. If you're an American football fan, this is definitely a place you want to check out. Oh, that's huge. So, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Honolulu, Denver, San Francisco. Oh, nice. So that means Dallas is going to finally get some photogrammetry. That's about time. Like, it was always baffling that the city of Dallas, Texas, never got photogrammetry. It was kind of baffling, if you ask me. So good to see Dallas finally get some photogrammetry. It's been pretty long over. Good to hear. And Honolulu, again, is very nice. Honolulu's a beautiful city, so why don't see Honolulu get some photogrammetry as well? Honolulu definitely, I mean, it would be an absolutely gorgeous city to do some flying in Honolulu. And it would come at a good time because that would be during the series. So that's finally going to get some photogrammetry. I guess the only major city left that doesn't get any photogrammetry is Charlotte. Charlotte's really the only major city left that doesn't really have photogrammetry. Charlotte. That's like the only major city left that didn't really have photogrammetry. Charlotte. Yeah, thank you for telling me that, Super Typhon. Thank you for that. So going from Canton, our next city is going to be Akron, Ohio. Going to be our next city to visit is Akron. So Akron, located in Summit County, Ohio, population of 190,000. It's Ohio's 5th largest city. Its metro area is 702,000 people. It was first settled in 1810 and was founded by Simon Perkins and Paul Williams along the Little Cuyahoga River at the summit of the developing Ohio and Erie Canal. And it derives from the Greek word Akron, which signifies a southern high point. In the 1910s, it became the nation's fastest growing city, but of course, this city is most famous for its history of rubber and tire manufacturing. carried on today by the Goodyear Tire Rubber Company, and it gave it the nickname the rubber capital of the world. At one point, it was the major center of airship development, which included manufacturing, education, healthcare, and biomedical research. Some notable events in Akron include the K-12 system created by the Akron School of Law in 1847 to create the K-12 system, the Akron Plan for Church Architecture, Foundation of Alcoholics Anonymous, iodized salt, known as the Akron Experiment, the 2014 Gay Games were played here for LGBT. And it's home to several major speeches, included by Sojourner Truth, W.E.B. Du Bois, and President Bill Clinton. Of course, Akron is also known for its tourist attractions as well. The Akron Art Museum, and of course, you also have the Akron Zoo, the Ohio and Erie Canalway Landmark, and its cuisine. But most notably, Akron's known for sports. Mainly its college sports, the Akron Zips, and the Akron Rubber Ducks minor league baseball team. In terms of notable people, there have been many notable people here. However, if I had to pick one person that I think is the most famous player from Akron, there's actually two very famous people. And that is the fact that LeBron James and Steph Curry are both from Akron, Ohio. Yes, they're two of the greatest basketball players of our generation, and they're both born in Akron. Steph Curry being born in 1988, and LeBron James, King James, actually born in 1984. And those two are two of the greatest basketball players of our generation, born in the same city. You also have Gus Johnson and Nate Thurmond, who was born in Akron. Thurman Munson, our baseball player Thurman Munson, and more. Tons of really well-known people too. As well as native Stanford R. Ovechkin, who used the nickel hydride battery, as well as Richard Smalley, who did buckyballs as well. And of course, the second U.S. female astronaut in space, Judith Resnick. So, some very famous people born and raised in Akron. Of course, in Akron, we have views of the airship development at Akron Fulton Airport. So we might be able to see the large air docks for these airships. After we head to pass through Akron, we'll make our way over to Cleveland through Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Here's downtown Akron. And there's the airship stuff. So all this back here is all the airship stuff that allocated or used. And finally, of course, once we turn right, we'll head over to the city of Cleveland, Ohio. Yep, here's Akron, Ohio to our left. So our final city we'll be visiting here today, it is Cleveland. Uh, Cleveland, Ohio, the fourth city, but also tons of other nicknames too. But Cleveland is actually Ohio's second most populous city in the state after Columbus, the nation's 53rd largest city with a population of 372,000 people. Its metro area is 2.1 million, and its combined statistical area with Akron and Canton is 3.6 million. Cleveland was founded in 1796 near the mouth of the Cuyahoga River in northeast Ohio, named by General Moses Cleveland. The city's location, the river lakeshore, allowed it to grow into a major commercial industrial metropolis by the late 19th century, bringing a lot of migrants and immigrants to the city. And throughout much of the 20th century, Cleveland was a top 10 largest city in the country. Developed a lot of its institutions. By the 60s, its economy slowed down thanks to manufacturing declining and suburbanization. Today, it's still a major port city via the St. Lawrence Seaway. Its economy relies on many sectors like higher education, manufacturing, financial services, healthcare, and biomedicals. And it's a global city, and it's home to several major institutions like the Cleveland Museum of Arts, its Museum of Natural History, Rockwell Hall of Fame, and more. And Cleveland also has sports teams like the Browns, Cavaliers, and Guardians, all played in Cleveland, Ohio. Of course, one of the interesting things about Cleveland is its healthcare. In fact, it has the big three hospital series of the Cleveland Clinics, University Hospitals, and Metro Health. It has some of the best hospital systems in the world are here in this Cleveland. In addition, Cleveland has a rich culture, along with thanks to its orchestras and lots of history with jazz and rhythm and blues have played a major role here in the city of Cleveland. It also has a lot of performing arts. In fact, its Playhouse Square is the second largest performing arts center in the country behind New York City's Lincoln Center. With many different theaters, with Broadway musicals, ballet, film festivals, and more. It also has a rich history with film and TV. Thomas Edison actually did the first film shot in the city. Before Hollywood came, it was Cleveland that that became the major filming location for film. A lot of people don't know about that. During the talkie era too. And lots of different films were filmed here. Spider-Man 3 was filmed here. Avengers was filmed in Cleveland. The Fate of Furious was filmed. And even the new upcoming Superman film will be shot here as Metropolis. The Drew Carey Show was also set for TV. Was set here in Cleveland. And more. So yes, a lot of history, a lot of culture, and a lot of stuff here. It has its own air show here too at Burke Lakefront Airport, and many ethnic festivals too. Its unique cuisines. Yes, Cleveland is absolutely a huge city here when talking about U.S. states. I know. You guys are aware, we're actually flying over a national park, actually. This is Cuyahoga Valley National Park here in Ohio, is Cuyahoga Valley National Park. If you guys aren't aware about Cuyahoga Valley, this state park has actually got an interesting history. This national park is actually one of the more visited national parks in the country. This national park is actually one of the more visited national parks. Over 2.8 million people visited this national park, making it one of the more visited national parks. It used to be a national recreation area in 1974, but it became a national park in 2000, and still the only national park that originated as a national recreation area. And it's the 12th most visited park. Some of the unique attractions here at the park include Brandywine Falls, which is the most popular attraction here at the park. You also have lots of wetlands, rivers, Horn hills, and more. Its Brandywine Falls are actually the tallest waterfall in the park. There's also a Towpath Trail, and of course, and that Towpath Trail goes through much of the Ohio and Erie Canal, big part of this area for decades. Some really cool stuff. National Park. We'll be visiting it during our National Park series, covering it on stream. Now, all this about the Cuyahoga River, of course, is down to our left, is the Cuyahoga River. Cuyahoga River. Oh yeah, at one point, a lot of people know the Cuyahoga because it caught on fire one of those times. If you don't believe me, the Cuyahoga River did indeed burn on fire at one point, and it caused a lot of environmental movements back in the day. But Cleveland also has a couple of other nicknames. The 216, Cleveland. Of course, its pejorative nickname is the Mistake on the Lake, 60s. So yeah, lots of nicknames. Yeah, Cuyahoga Valley, beautiful national park. Not a bit overlooked. Here's guys, Cleveland, and then our final stop for today is going to be at Berkeley Front Airport. This will be our final stop of the day, Kilo Bravo Kilo Lima. This airport is a general aviation airport and FAA designated reliever to Hopkins Airport, one of the 3 airports serving the area. Of course, it is actually increased over the past 2 decades, has been decreased. So nowadays it's starting to go up. It's also used for a lot of professional sports teams for charter flights due to its proximity to Cleveland sporting facilities of Progressive Field, Rocket Arena, and Huntington Bank Field. And it was originally built in 1927. And it was begun in the 1940s as a built. Currently, right now, it's mainly used for cargo airlines, Columbus, as well as some charter flights to destinations in Ohio and Michigan. Of course, it once was the site of the Grand Prix of Cleveland, and it was the only airport to host such a major car race. Barack Obama also landed his ramp in front of Air Force One. And more. So, pretty interesting little airport covered here. Here it is, Cleveland. Ahead of us is the city of Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, what a great way to wrap up today's stream. Fly over Cleveland briefly, we'll fly around downtown, and then we'll go through Huntington Bank Stadium, and then we'll wrap up the stream in Berkeley. That'll be us wrapping up our stream here today. I hope you guys are enjoying this. This has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed visiting the state of Ohio. But trust me, we'll get to more interesting scenery and stuff when we visit the Western states in part 3 and 4. Welcome to Cleveland. They also have the house from a Christmas Story here too. Cleveland is a major area for a lot of films were filmed here in Cleveland. Of course, let's not forget, Cleveland was a major area for industry. Here's the stadium for. Here's the ballpark for the Guardians. Rocket Arena's home for the Cavs. And on the other side of all this is the Browns facility. Yeah, Cleveland's definitely a pretty chic city to do some time. Left. Welcome to Cleveland, Ohio. And we're going to make our landing here. Here's the Cleveland Stadium, right? Home of the Cleveland Browns. Historically been, in recent years, been a very dysfunctional franchise. No joke, they are very dysfunctional. So we're going to go ahead and shut the plane, and that wraps up our stream, guys. We officially have done it, guys. Welcome to Cleveland, Ohio. Wrap up our trip here in the Buckeye State, here in Cleveland. So, guys, thank you all so much for being here today. Hope you all had a great stream. We'll say hello to our raid target. We'll prepare for the raid, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday. Hope you got a great start of your weekend, guys. Take care, everyone, and have a great Sunday. We'll see you in Louisiana, guys. See you guys later.